Today's special guest is James Heller, cash buyer out of Denver, Colorado. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
Can you start by telling us a little bit about, or telling our audience about you, your investing journey, and what motivated you to become a cash buyer for distressed properties?
Yeah, absolutely. I started out as a engineer. I have a background in physics and worked at a W-2 job for years and years and years. And after some time, I realized that some of the properties I had bought were appreciating and creating almost more value than I was at my own job. And so, kind of seeing some of that, I knew that real estate had some big opportunities. And I started looking outside of the market that I was actually living in. I was in Southern California, but I was looking here in Colorado and found pretty good value here. Basically, saw some opportunities and started buying houses for flips, some for rentals. We did some wholesaling. And then basically, that was the foundation that I built up this business on.
So you kind of started everything all at once, just
All at once.
feet
Yeah.
first. And as an investor, so an investor with what you're doing in buying properties in Denver, an investor can spend months looking for the right property with the right spread, or they can just call you because
Yeah.
you have inventory. You sounds like you're flipping some of your own inventory, but wholesaling a good portion of the rest of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a key piece for a lot of investors is they're chasing two rabbits and sometimes they catch neither, right? Because sourcing deals and doing fix and flips actually have nothing to do with each other. I think a lot of people think that they do and it's the same business, but it's really not. So you have sourcing deals, which some people call wholesaling, which is really sales and marketing. And then you have doing fix and flips, which is basically construction. And the two really have nothing to do with each other except houses, right?
Completely different hats, right?
Exactly. And so if you do source your own deals and you do flips, you really have to treat it like two different businesses, right? When you source a deal, you can do any number of things with it. You can wholesale it, flip it, you can create a rental. If you're a fix and flipper, you basically do fix and flips, right? And so if you're a really, really excellent fix and flipper, which I don't think that I am, but I think a lot of people are, right? They have dialed in processes, great construction crews. They may not be as good at finding the deals. And so rather than spinning your wheels and trying to find stuff yourself, not spending time on what you're really good at, you go to somebody like me who is specialized in finding deals and you're still able to find great discounted properties without spending all that time and hassle building up your own marketing process.
And properties that will cash flow. I mean, with some rehab usually, right? But properties that can be bought at a price that could potentially cash flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we sell lots of stuff, small multifamily that are at deep enough discounts that people can fix them up and do a burr, for instance. I mean, that's how I've bought a lot of my rental portfolio. So if you're buying a property at a deep enough discount that you have the purchase price and the rehab, and you're within, let's say, 80 to maybe 90% of what the after repair value is, a lot of times you can then refinance, have less money in the property, and keep it as a rental. So that's kind of the idea of a burr. But it all starts with sourcing good deals.
Yeah. I
Because
think that's
without
the hard.
that,
I think that's the hardest part.
yeah,
Really, I mean, is constantly finding the good deals, and that's what you're full time at finding deals with your team, with your marketing, and on all of your efforts. That's all you're doing, right?
that's all we do.
And you're focused on buying properties in and around Denver and surrounding areas right now.
Yeah. So we buy properties in Denver. We buy properties in Colorado Springs, also Fort Collins, and basically everywhere in between. One thing I really like about Colorado's housing market is that you have so many options because Denver is pretty high priced at this point. But Colorado Springs, for instance, much more attractive price point for some people. And you can also find rentals more easily that will actually cash flow.
So you're buying them at a lower price point, but it seems like the rents are about the same or pretty comparable to Denver anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, if rents are the same, but price points are lower, then generally it's more attractive for
Yeah.
investors. So I think in Denver, your median home is right around 600 to 650,000, where in Colorado Springs, it might be closer to like
Yeah.
400,000. And so if you're looking for, a better cash flow property, typically lower price point homes are going to provide that.
And which type of properties are you typically looking for? So part of our audience, maybe there's an investor or someone that is looking to sell a property. I know that you right now you're just focused in Denver, but if we had somebody that was looking to sell a property, what kind of properties are you buying right now?
Yeah, so we buy a lot of different properties. I would say majority of what we buy is dated, needs work, and typically the seller has some kind of reason that they need to sell quickly. So that's the type of thing that we are usually buying. They're not always beat up and they're not always like a crazy situation, but one really good example, we actually buy nice homes from people that might want to do like a 1031, for instance. And so because 1031s have such tight timelines when you have to sell, identify the next property and then close on the next property, we can help with that because otherwise it could be really stressful. And so, for instance, I could offer somebody a flexible closing date so that once they find the property that they're going to move their money into, we make it really easy for them to close and then close on their second transaction. And so we've had a number of clients that are doing 1031s as well.
So you're flexible and working with them and their timelines.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the benefit of working with a cash buyer typically. We know, I mean, we are not the highest offer that you can get on the market, right? The highest offer you can get is by listing it with an agent, taking it to market, doing the repairs, showing a lot of people. That's how you get the best offer. But for a lot of people, speed and convenience is more important than squeezing every last dollar out of the property, especially in a market like this where inventory is going way, way up, meaning days on market are going
Yeah.
way, way up. So there's a lot of people that we can help when they want to sell their house quickly, easily, without doing a lot of repairs and all of that.
Or multifamily.
Yep.
Um, and with less contingencies, right? Than you'd see from most buyers. Traditionally, you're able to buy with cash. You know what you're looking at when you walk into a property. You can estimate repairs quickly. So you can make an offer with all of that information pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. And the difference is somebody who's buying a house to live in it wants it to be perfect the day that they move in, right? And so they're going to be really picky, especially right now where they have a lot of options on what they move into and interest rates are really high. They want it to be perfect the day that they move in. And who do they want to make it perfect? Like you, right? As the seller, they want you to make it perfect. Whereas me, we know that we're going to do repairs. We know that we're going to fix things up. And so when I buy a house, I mean, frequently we buy it with furniture still there. We'll
Yeah.
buy it with tenants still there. We'll buy it, if there's holes in the walls. We don't nickel and dime people. We expect to do these repairs.
What's the what's the worst situation you've ever had to come in and fix?
The
That
worst
sticks out.
situation.
I know there's probably a few, but what's the one that jumps out at you?
Um, oh my God. Yeah, we've had some really, really rough houses out there. Um, I would say the ones where people have a lot of cats.
Yeah.
Like we've definitely had houses where people have like 8 or 9 cats in the house,
Yeah.
and the smell is so atrocious. Like you can smell these houses down the block. And so I really think like pets can be rough if there's a lot of pets not well taken care of. People that smoke in their house,
Oh yeah. I had
that's a
one of
tough one,
those.
right?
I had one of those, and I wish I would have just replaced all the drywall.
Yeah. You kind of have to,
Yeah.
right? Like for sure you have to paint everything with kills.
Yeah.
For sure you have to replace all the
It
flooring.
was bleeding
But
right through. It was wicking right through. The cigarette smoke was wicking right through it. So,
I bet.
yeah.
And you can tell too if you see the walls, if you ever go into a house and you see that the walls are like a little bit yellow, and it smells like smoke, it's like, oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
have to get rid of all the drywall
Yeah,
for
there's a
sure.
lot more to that. I think people realize too. And you said you do occasionally get some larger multifamily sellers that call you.
We do. Yeah, absolutely. We get people, I mean, of all sorts that want to sell quickly and easily.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's 6 units, sometimes it's 8 units. We've had higher counts than that. A lot of times they've had tenants for a super, super long time because they don't want to raise the rent. They don't want to do a lot of rehab, repairs to the building, whatever. So what you have is a large building with a lot of tenants that are not paying very much rent. And it can be a big job to get all those tenants to new locations and then do all this renovation. So for multifamily, I mean, it's a lot of work. If you want to sell it on the market, it needs to be really, really dialed in. And that could be a lot of money that this person has to spend up front
Mhm.
if they want to go list it.
Mhm. Yeah, those are the ones that I like getting in there with the income on the income play to drive the value
Totally.
from with my background. So think of me. Let me know when you get some of those. I'd love to
Yeah,
look at some of those. And then your company, the Atlas portfolio, solves a big problem for sellers that may already be facing a life event and they just need to sell their property quickly, like you were saying, with no surprises and with transparency. I know that there are a lot of cash buyer companies that will go out there and promise sellers one thing and deliver something else. Can you share a
for sure.
couple success stories just top of mind where you've gone in and helped sellers, you delivered on everything you said you were going to do, where they were happy and just appreciative that you did deliver on everything you said you were going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the big difference is that we really stand behind our branding. And so if you look on Google or if you search for us, you find us always the first result, all 5-star reviews. We ask every single client that we work with for a review. And a lot of them will write like paragraphs about like, oh my goodness, I was in such a tight spot. We were able to sell quickly. We were able to do this. But like one really good example, this actually comes up a fair amount. But we had a seller that was moving to another state and they were buying a cheaper home, basically all in cash, right? So they wanted to reduce their expenses. They're getting a little bit older. They didn't want to have a mortgage anymore. But in order to close in this house, they had to sell their house in like 2 weeks,
Wow.
right? And so, as you know, I mean, there's just no chance of doing that on market. Like,
Not with
it's gonna
financing. Yeah.
it's gonna take a week just to get it ready. You've got
Mhm.
to list it. You've got to find a buyer. They have to get their lender. Like minimum, you're typically talking about 60 days,
Mhm.
right? And so we're able to close really fast. Like 10 to 15 days is pretty much it. And then they were really stressed out about moving. Like
Oh.
they hadn't moved in like 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And
So
so they're like, what do you do? How do you pack up? Who do you call?
where do we
Because
start? Yeah.
where do you start? You have 40
Oh.
years of stuff in your house, right? It's crazy. And so we have people that we work with pretty frequently. And so we actually handled all of the moving for them.
Oh.
We packed everything up for them. We basically put them on the road, moved them to a different state, and they were so happy. We closed the day before they closed on the other house. And so they got their money. We gave them like an extra week or something to stay in the house. And then we helped them pack everything and move to the other state. And so we're providing so much value for these folks because they weren't used to doing this, right? They hadn't bought another house in years. They had never packed up before. And so really we try to help them along the way with every single thing that we can.
It really seems like without your help they wouldn't have been able to get it done.
I don't know what they would have done. It was tricky, and the people that they were buying from were actually about to kick them out of the contract because they
Oh.
were getting frustrated.
So they were
Um,
stressed out already.
yeah, so, and their agent, the seller's agent, actually called me from I think it was from Oregon,
Mm.
and he was like, "Hey, like, are you guys actually going to close on this? Like, are we actually going to be able to do our second transaction?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. We're going to buy this. You're going to close. Your sellers are going to be happy." And so
Mhm.
we were able to pull that whole thing together, which was great.
Yeah, I bet they were super happy.
Yeah.
And as a real estate as a rental real estate investor yourself, so you do keep some of them and you rent them out. What are your thoughts on property management and automated showings going keyless?
Yeah. So I think I told you this before. Like a big challenge that I had was managing properties remotely because I was in San Diego and all of the rentals that I had bought were here in Denver. And so initially I just had a duplex and I actually inherited the tenants and it was fine. There was no problem. They didn't need a lot of help. They were already there. I was like, okay, great. Like this is easy, right? It wasn't until I bought another duplex, a triplex, a single family, I started adding properties to my rental portfolio and we started having tenant turnover that I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about this. Like, how do I show these homes to people? How do I manage this? How do I know they're not going to break in, steal things, break stuff? And so, yeah, I mean, I actually think having a keyless solution is a no brainer. If you have rental properties, there are so many reasons why you want people to come and go without having keys.
And your
Um,
vendors too.
and your vendors, like so
Trades.
tenants,
Yeah.
vendors, property managers, and then beyond that, if you own, let's say you own 10 properties, you also own 10 sets of keys. Like,
Yeah.
where are all the keys?
Yeah.
I don't know where all the keys are to my properties. And it just makes it so tricky. Like if you sell something, you know, how do you get keys? If a vendor has to get in, like you said, if tenants want to get in. So it really does become a headache quickly once you start scaling past like 1 or 2 units.
And are they the right keys?
Yeah, are they the right
Yeah.
keys? Like, I don't know. You have to replace locks all the time. Tenants lose their keys.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many good reasons to have a keyless entry solution.
And would you feel better as a rental investor if it was more commonplace to have camera? Because you said that you have a property manager that you've hired in Denver. Would you feel better if it was more commonplace to have camera monitoring while your properties were vacant?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And especially in Denver, there are areas where, you know, people watch for vacant properties and they break in. Like they do. And you honestly, you don't always know until your property manager visits the property maybe a week later, and who knows what's happened. And so, you know, if it costs you, let's say, a couple $100 for a camera, or you pay some monthly fee for a camera or something like that, it's probably worth the insurance to not go and do $5,000 furnace replacement if somebody breaks in and steals that from your house.
Yeah, we had one. We had a furnace grow legs about a year ago, brand new.
It happens all the time. All the
Brand new.
time.
And how are property sellers, investors, property sellers and investors better after working with your company?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Everyone's situation is different, but like I said, we try to provide as much value as possible to each one of our clients. And so a lot of people have a bugaboo property that it's really stressful, right? Like if you have bad tenants or you inherited a property from grandma or something, you don't know what to do with it. That's a big deal for a lot of people. So we really think of ourselves as partners, solving problems with them. But even for people that are, you know, well versed, like they own a rental portfolio, we buy from a lot of people that live out of state, right? And so if you live out of state, but you own property in Colorado, it's not that easy to coordinate the whole sale of the home and everything without taking a bunch of trips to Denver. And then you have flights and hotels and it's stressful, right? I mean, we're talking about people's biggest asset here that we're helping them with.
Not to mention, like, the rehab and everything else from out of state. You know, is somebody shoveling?
Yeah, that's a big one.
You know, is there ice all over the walkways? Is this house just sitting there as a liability?
That's a big deal. And just back to what you said about the cameras, like, you know, I'm in San Diego and it's 70 degrees in the wintertime. And here in Colorado, there's 3 feet of snow on the ground. And to be honest, it's hard to know as a rental owner, accountability wise, are people doing what they're supposed to be doing? is my team shoveling the sidewalks?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I had a camera, I would know that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the trash going out, or is it piling up on the curb? That happens all the time, right?
Did it really take 5 hours?
Did it take 5 hours? Right. So keeping your vendors, your handyman accountable for the time that they're working on your properties. I mean, there's so many reasons. And the truth is, like, if you're remote, you're not there every day, which most owners don't want to be at the rental properties every day. You just don't know. There's no accountability.
Yeah. And how can investors looking to buy property or sellers looking to sell property in Denver get in touch with you?
Yeah, so anyone looking to sell can Google the Atlas portfolio. They'll see our logo. We're all over Google. We have a lot of ads on Facebook too. Every time I help someone or I'm at a house, I just shoot a quick video explaining the situation, and that actually attracts a lot of business, which is great. And so, yeah, just looking up the Atlas portfolio, or if you type in Denver cash buyer, we're one of the first ones that shows up. Read our reviews. They're all real. They'll let you know what it's like to work with us. Anyone that wants to buy a home, so there are homes that we don't close on personally. There's some that make sense for us to fix and flip, buy as rentals. There's others that we sell to our network of partners. And so if you're looking to buy properties, you can get in touch with me directly. I'm sure you'll link some information. You can look me up on Facebook or Instagram, James Heller. But we do also sell properties that don't exactly fit our criteria. So if you're interested in being one of our partners, I'm happy to work with you directly as well.
Perfect. Well, James, thank you so much for being here with us today. Enjoyed the insight and look forward to catching up soon.
All right. That sounds good. Thanks so much, Madelyn.
Thank you so much.